hey. So, the intro music doesn't want to work. So
I thought you were going to make me sing the intro.
Go ahead. I'm waiting. Do the Eagles call. Mel Reese, come on. You can do it.
I'm not going to do it.
All right. So, yeah, for those of you watching or listening, sorry about that. Don't know what's wrong with the intro music. Didn't want to play. It's worked fine for the last 2.5 months. But, yeah, technology. We say that every few weeks, and here we are once again. So, yeah. Awesome. Love it. Yeah. Technology. It's a great, great thing. But, yeah, so we're on episode 258 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, good to be here. We've spent a few weeks kind of jumping around a little bit, but it's been good to hear. Last week was Bulldog, wasn't it?
Yeah. Okay, we haven't been here for 2 weeks.
Yep.
We were here. We just were doing a different show. We did the Bulldog Hour. We'll have actually some Bulldog flavor tonight because we're talking NFL draft and something very closely related to that happened right after the draft concluded. So
absolutely,
we will get to that shortly. But so it's been 2 weeks. I think since the last time all of the Philadelphia teams have lost, unfortunately. One, it mattered, and they're done. Another, it's still early. I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter a whole ton. Yeah. Another, they lost.
It did matter, but now it doesn't matter.
Now it doesn't matter. So, Flyers are done. That's unfortunate, but we kind of expected it.
Right.
So, we're disappointed, obviously, because we're Flyers fans, but in the long run, did we actually think they were going to beat the Penguins? No.
By the way.
Through half the game, though, we thought it was going Game 7.
Right. So, real quick, there was in Game 2 of the Penguins game today, apparently in the third period. I did not see it.
Is this the goal, no goal?
Yeah, they scored a goal that was not called a goal, even though from everything I've heard, it was clearly a goal. But
I don't. How does that happen?
Right, I don't know. They said there's a replay. There's a replay that shows the ice, like the white between the puck and the line, like it fully crossed the line, and they said inconclusive. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but all I know is all these people who were posting saying, "Man, that would have made it 3-2. You never know what would have happened from there on out." I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying rewind a week ago when the Flyers were down 1 and there should have been a tripping penalty and then the Penguins score and go up 2. And they're like, "Oh, well, don't give up that many goals." I agree with that as well. You can't give up that many goals, and expect to win a hockey game. But at the same time, literally 1 week apart, you have the same fan base arguing opposite sides of the same, logic, I guess.
Fans are fickle. And that's what we try not to be the hypocritical double standards. If it's good enough for you guys, it needs to be good enough for Philly.
Or at least I try to recognize it and establish that that's what I'm doing. I'm being irrational, but that's the fan side of me. So I try and just call myself out on that. Look, I am irrationally mad about X because I am in my full fan mode right now, even though I know that I was happy about this before.
Right. So Flyers are done. It's unfortunate, but they're young.
Made a step in the right direction, made the playoffs.
Supposedly, they just got the 14th pick in the draft because they got that from the St. Louis Blues. Right. So they also have them later in the draft, later in the first round, I should say, 24th or something like that. And Hexall says he's alluding to going about free agency in the offseason a little bit differently, so we'll see what comes about from that. Yeah. But like I said...
Also said there's no coaching changes.
Right, which so Dave Hexall will be back, which... I'm a huge proponent of giving people time. Yeah. This was his second
year, I think.
To me, he deserves at least a half a season more.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
And in a lot of sports, and it changes pro college, but I think a guy deserves 3 to 4 years.
Right.
I really do.
In hockey and basketball, you see a lot of those changes in that 82-game season. You see a lot of in-season changes where the team can kind of overcome.
It's a roller coaster.
If it's not working the first half next year, you know what? It's hard to kind of argue. If they're not trending in the right direction next year, then it's hard to argue. Yeah, keep being patient. You're in your third year. You would expect the young guys to be progressing and all that stuff. If that's not happening, it's hard to defend anymore. But after that, it's one of those things where I want to see that stability. I want to see that development of the guys kind of keep going.
So also, since our last show, which I didn't remember until I got the not at all sarcastic email from my uncle Rich in Massachusetts, the NFL schedule for next year has came out since the last time we were on, which is cool. Some people are obnoxious about it and literally means nothing because what teams your team is playing.
Right.
You just don't know when. But it is. I mean, it's important to know when it's primetime games, who's playing on Thursday, who's playing on Thanksgiving.
Right.
All those things are important to a lot of people. So some people just, I don't know, they get their panties in a bunch over people being excited for the schedule release. But so what I'm talking about is my uncle forwarded an email to me from the Patriots official website, say get the 2018 printable schedule. So he wanted to let us know that if we were interested in the Patriots printable schedule or anything from their pro shop, he made sure that we got this link. I do unfortunately like the do your job. It's just such a great
I thought you were going to say Patriot boat shoes. That's what I thought you were going with.
No. I'm saying
you could wear those on the sidelines of the Wilson games this fall. Can you imagine?
If I'm clicking on something here, the do your job hats are appealing to me just because I like the slogan. It's a great football cliche that I can't believe no one had copyrighted trademark before the Patriots. That's absurd to me because I feel like people have been yelling that in sports forever. Of course, they took advantage of it because why not? But really, this throwback year stuff, I love that Pats logo and those original colors.
I like those Pats logos. You know why? Because they were terrible.
They were terrible.
Then.
Yeah, they were terrible when they wore those.
You know what though? You know what? The new ones don't bother me as much anymore either. You know why? Because the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
And who they beat doing so?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that it makes a difference. So we do thank my uncle for letting us know about the Patriots printable schedule. And actually, we'll take a look here because I know the Dolphins play the Patriots early in the season. I think it's week 4. So that's a big one for me and my uncle, obviously. And
week 4.
I'm talking about in New England. They host the Dolphins on Sunday, September 30th, and they go to Miami Sunday, December 9th. So right there's a loss for the Patriots. Sunday, December 9th would chalk that one up because they can't do it. They got to go to Miami, which I know people would be like, Dolphins are a 500 team at best. That may be true, but like I said, the Patriots struggle in Miami, and then they have to go to Pittsburgh the next week.
And they host Minnesota the week before. So Minnesota at Miami at Pittsburgh.
All right.
Then they have Buffalo, but then they get the Jets. So
yeah, right. You get Jets twice in the final 6 weeks of the season. So, but so real briefly, Sixers, they lost to the Heat once, and then they rattled off 3 straight.
Yeah.
To win that series 4-1. They play tomorrow night.
Yeah,
against
the Celtics.
The road now. But yeah, Boston Philly. A lot of people are excited about that.
Yeah.
That is a historically great basketball rivalry. At least it was 30 years ago.
You see the NBC Philly one where they showed? I think it was Larry Bird and Dr. J had each other by the throat. Yeah,
I saw that. It's pretty sweet.
Imagine if that happened now. Oh my gosh, people would lose their minds.
Oh my gosh, it's just too bad Kyrie Irving can't be a part of it.
Yeah.
Well, what part of the flat Earth do you think he's hanging out on during his recovery? No, don't want to touch that one. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Phillies come back down to earth a little bit, at least the
last the last 2 series.
Haven't been
now,
when
they
great.
lost the series to the Diamondbacks, they lose 2 out of 3. Diamondbacks are the best team in baseball, right?
Majors? I mean, NL.
At least in the NL, yeah. So then, the Braves, who have also had the Phillies number earlier this season, they lost 2 out of 3 to them. The 2 that they lost, and this happened with the Diamondbacks too, so the last 4 losses have kind of been, well, I shouldn't say that. On Saturday when they lost, it wasn't a blowout loss, but they've gotten kind of the doors blown off a few times.
For sure. What was it, 10-1?
Yeah, Vince Velasquez gave up 6 runs. Yeah. So, it's one of those, they need to get things righted. We talked about that. They're still, record-wise, they're still fine.
Yeah,
they're where we would have said they need to be at the end of April. The problem is they beat bad teams and they lost to the good teams, which is kind of how it's probably going to be for a little bit, but they need the pitching to step up. Pavetta didn't pitch bad yesterday. Defense let him down in the inning where they gave up the 2 runs, and so they should have been able to score some yesterday. Weather wasn't great. That's going to happen. We took Austin to the game last night. He thoroughly enjoyed it. He had a blast.
Oh, great.
They have out in like right field at that end of the Ashburn Alley.
Yeah.
They have basically a miniature base like Citizens Bank Park field.
Nice.
That you can go and the kids can hit wiffle ball yeah.
What do they call it? The field or something?
Yeah, something like that. So Austin did that and he just loved it.
Nice.
Like he thought it was so cool. He actually hit the ball a few times, so like that was cool. Yeah, he really enjoyed it.
So the biggest thing for the Phillies is that they've created expectations now, I think, which is a bit of an issue.
Right.
Because like as much as I want to say that, all right, they're going to be better than we thought this year, they'll compete for a playoff spot. I still don't know that I buy that. But I think the general public is thinking that now,
right.
Which is a problem. So,
So
I hope they do keep trucking along and are flirting in the 85 to 88 win range when all is said and done, because they should be in play for that 1-game wild card playoff.
Right.
And hey, that'd be great. I would love that, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen that way. So
no.
So we did Flyers, we did Phillies, we did Sixers. We're talking Eagles now, essentially, because we're going to talk the NFL draft, which just completed yesterday with I think it was 256 picks, and I guess a little bit of a shocker to start things off. I mean, yes and no, because until maybe Wednesday, no one was thinking that Baker Mayfield was going to be the number 1 pick until Adam Schefter started talking about it. And Adam Schefter is an amazing insider. He's right, I'd say, most of the time, probably 75, 80% of the time. But there have been a few famous ones that he's whiffed on or missed out on. But it happens to everyone. And this is one of those where I'm like, I don't know about this.
Right.
This
well, and it's the draft where it's notoriously sending misinformation. Like, there's notorious amounts of misinformation sent out by everyone, about all this stuff. So, you were looking at it just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's one of those where there were a lot of reasons why you'd want, if you're the Browns, why you would want teams to think you're taking Mayfield, and I didn't know if I actually thought it was going to happen. The people who I know who follow the Browns a little closer than I generally do, I think they were kind of anticipating that that's the direction they were going to go to. So I think the people there were buying into it. So, well, we'll see, right? And that I hate saying that because that's how all the draft stuff is going to be. We'll see, you
can't evaluate this for 3 full seasons. So
right.
Following the 2020 season, that's when you can kind of be like, all right, how did the 2018 draft play out? Because then they'll have 3 full seasons under their belt, and by then you usually know who's going to make or break it. So Baker Mayfield, the quarterback from Oklahoma, went to Cleveland.
I love this write-up.
This is from Draft Tech, my old stomping grounds, where I worked for 8 drafts. It may have even been 9 now that I think about it. I think it was 8 drafts with the guys at Draft Tech, and they're still doing great work. But obviously, not huge fans of who's ever doing the Cleveland picks. Not huge fans. They gave it a D grade. I can't say I really disagree that much. So let's zoom in here a little. Every time I think Cleveland can't out-Brown themselves, they do prove me wrong. Incredible how often that tends to involve a quarterback. It isn't that I don't think Mayfield can succeed in the NFL. I'm just not betting on it over Sam Darnold. Mayfield's pathological need for attention isn't making me feel very confident with egos like Jarvis Landry and Josh Gordon on that team. I don't like it, but I'm willing to admit I was wrong when he proves it. Wish I could be more optimistic, but that's the best I've got. And that's from Austin Smith at drafttech.com. He gives it a D grade. I can't disagree with what he's saying there. That's a lot to throw him into, but of course he's supposedly not the guy this year because they traded for Tyrod Taylor.
Which is kind of crazy when you think about you just traded for a guy. Oh, you just drafted a guy number 1 overall at quarterback who's not going to be your starting quarterback in Cleveland, where you've won 1 game out of the last 32. You're 1-31 over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that you need to push him in. If you feel like he's not ready, don't push him in. But at the same time, what are you doing? Like, is Hugh Jackson going to be around another year if they go 4-12?
I feel like, and then you just start that cycle over again. It's like 2 years with a coach, get rid of him.
Tyrod Taylor, who was able to take the Bills to the playoffs this past year. What if he leads the Browns to like 6 or 7? Let's say he gets to 7 wins this year.
7 and 9.
Now all of a sudden, there's a ton more pressure, even more pressure on. Here we go. What if Tyrod Taylor, with the talent that's there, because honestly, it feels like there's more talent on that roster than there's been for decade plus.
I feel like the Jaguars a few years ago,
right?
Everyone was like, "Oh, they're going to explode."
So here we go. Right, and remember, and the Jaguars were awful 2 seasons ago, and then not awful, but they weren't. They were well below where their expectations were, and then the next year they were there. The problem is, I don't think Hugh Jackson has a year left of like benefit of the doubt. We'll just keep riding with 1-31. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So they need to step it up. But just for fun, what if Tyrod Taylor gets them to 9 wins? They miss the playoffs, but they're second in the division. Well, then they try and trade him. That's what they do.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But that would be a very Browns thing to happen, wouldn't it? They trade Tyrod Taylor, and Baker Mayfield isn't the guy like that. So I'm confident that the Browns are going to be good this year, not better this year,
for them.
And that it'll just complicate the Baker Mayfield situation because it's the Browns. They can't just make the right decision, have everything fall into alignment perfectly, right? Like, we're in agreement that that's not how this is going to happen, right? Baker Mayfield is not going to be the best quarterback out of the 4 or 5 main guys out of the draft because it's the Browns. Right. So sorry, Baker, that's just how that's going to play out now.
They've won.
If it was Sam Darnold would have been the guy. We know it's not going to work out.
Right.
That's how this works.
Hopefully that's still the case, though, for him. So the Browns have won 1 of their last 35 games. So if they win 3 games this year, that's a huge improvement.
So you're saying they can go Sixers on everybody. However, I don't think they'll win 56 games next year.
No games last year, 3-4 this year, and then they go 10-6 the next year. That could happen.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Moving on.
Especially because in 2 years, Steelers may be may be starting a rookie or a second-year quarterback.
No, they got. Oh, okay. Yeah,
right.
I thought you were going to say draft.
Sorry, I was stumbling over myself trying to say that, but yeah.
So here's one of the love-hate picks for you personally, because Penn State, number 2 overall, Saquon Barkley. A lot of people thought he was the best player in the draft. He didn't slide like a lot of people thought that the quarterbacks there'd be a run on him. And the entire first round hinged on the Giants pick here. What were they going to do? Were they going to take Barkley? Were they going to grab one of the quarterbacks? Were they going to trade out? Well, they stepped
and there was another wrench thrown in this because the Browns took Baker Mayfield.
Right.
Because Sam Darnold was still available. A lot of people, like you said, before Wednesday last week, were assuming Sam Darnold was going to be the guy off the board after the first pick.
But Saquon goes to the Giants, a place where, Rock Nation wanted him to go. He probably wanted to go, though he never admitted to that. And he played the pre-draft process perfectly.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to like him, although there's some people that think he's overrated. That's been probably the biggest negative I've seen out there about him, is people think he's overrated. But, he gets to prove it on the field. He gets to do it for Big Blue. And his 26 is already the number 1 selling rookie jersey, and a lot of people think he'll be in the top 5, top 3 when the season rolls around. So, hey.
Good for him. I have established that what I want to happen. It took me some time. My immediate response was I hate everything, which isn't exactly true. However, Saquon goes from, the guy I root for the guy on the team that I root for the most to the guy on the team that I can't stand, but whatever. When we look at it, I'm really happy for Saquon. I'm glad he didn't slide. I'm glad he, was able to, like you said, navigate that pre-draft process really well and just kind of hold up. And, we talked about this the other night. What do I love? The fact that he gets up, hugs his mom, and then hugs Coach Franklin. Right there on TV. Franklin's hitting up all the NFL shows that are down at the draft. All that stuff's great. And I know we'll probably talk a little bit about Penn State later on with the draft process. But, it's just one of those things where, I hope Saquon does really well about 14 games out of the year, unless I need a certain outcome or something like that. It's going to be really interesting.
So the other New York team picked third, the Jets, and they went Sam Darnold, the quarterback from USC. A year plus ago, people were saying how he was a surefire best guy in the draft. Then he had a...
That in true USC fashion.
Yeah, in true USC fashion, he came back to school, and it was fine. Obviously good enough to get third overall, but it gives scouts and front office personnel and anyone that likes to draft time to pick through, and they go through quarterbacks with a fine-tooth comb. And as you can see, it doesn't always work out for the quarterbacks or for the draftniks, and it'll be interesting to see how this crop of first-round quarterbacks, because there are 5 of them, pan out 3 to 5 years down the road.
Right. Did you see the tweet that Josh McCown sent out of the picture of the text his daughter sent him?
No.
So his daughter, Josh McCown, on the Jets, got a text from his daughter. Oh my gosh, he's only a year older than me. So basically someone the same age as Josh McCown's kids is now his heir apparent, right, apparently in New York or New Jersey.
So Cleveland came up again at number 4, all wondering what they were going to do. They took a quarterback, so who they were going to go here? Were they going to go stud defenseman Bradley Chubb?
I thought for sure they were going Bradley Chubb.
And have the Myles Garrett link up, had a great rushing group on the defensive side. What else could they do? What's Cleveland going to do? Would they double down on quarterbacks? That would have been interesting.
So I was streaming, so I'm on a slight delay, and I see your response. So basically, I'll paraphrase. What are they doing?
Yeah.
And my immediate thought was, they didn't take another quarterback, did they? No way. That didn't actually happen, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't want to be harsh on... I mean, it's Ohio State kid, so I can be as harsh as I want. But, right, he's also a young kid that wants to make it in the league, and obviously was a top 10, top 15 talent.
Yeah, and Denzel Ward was a really good, prospect. No one's arguing that he wasn't top 10. It's just, when you have picks 1 and 4, you expect
two immediate
to leave,
starters.
And you're like, oh my gosh, we absolutely won night 1 of the draft because we had 2 of the top 4 picks, and they left, and everybody's like, and honestly, I feel like if they picked Bradley Chubb, that would have taken some of the heat off of Baker Mayfield because they would have look, Baker Mayfield was clearly their guy, and they got, if not for Saquon, the other guy people were really arguing was the best player in the draft in Bradley Chubb. So you look at it, you're like, okay, Mayfield must be their guy, and they got the other best player at 1 and 4, and that's great. The problem is a lot of people feel like they could have moved back. Now, in order to move back, you have to have somebody willing to move up.
You do.
But because Bradley Chubb was there,
and he went the next pick to Denver.
Right.
They get the pairing with Von Miller, and now they have one of the best young pass-rushing duos in the entire league. Perhaps the safest, best player available, Quentin Nelson from Notre Dame.
I really like that pick for Indianapolis, because at some point you got to try and keep Andrew Luck's arm from falling off. So
the Bills got their quarterback of the future in Wyoming's Josh Allen. That's a boomer bust pick right there. One of my favorites in the class, Roquan Smith, the Georgia inside linebacker, goes to Chicago.
Yeah, when I saw
Manheim Central alum Matt Nagy.
Yeah, when I saw he went to Chicago, I was like, I'm not saying he's going to be the next great thing, but I was like, he has a chance to be a really good linebacker in Chicago. That could really work out well for them.
So a second Notre Dame offensive lineman goes in the top 10 at 9 to San Francisco, Mike McGlinchey, which I believe he's a PA guy.
I think he is, yeah.
Cousin of Matt Ryan, I think.
That could be.
So,
who's a PA guy?
Yep. Then another quarterback in the top 10 at 10 to Arizona, Josh Rosen, UCLA quarterback. A lot of interesting personalities in the quarterbacks.
Yes.
Then my team finally made their pick. They stuck at 11, and I think they made a slam dunk pick, which I haven't said much over the last few years. But I was high on Minkah Fitzpatrick. I've known about him for a while because we followed his recruitment because, well, he had Penn State and was like top 5 or something like that. He ended up going to Alabama. It was a 3-year starter there. Started as a freshman, which is rare to do down there because of all the 5-star blue chip prospects they bring in every year. He got to play all over in the secondary, and I think he's going to be a great safety for the Dolphins.
You start 3 years at Alabama, I want you on my team.
Yeah, so I was all about that pick when they made it. Vita Vea from Washington, we saw play against Penn State.
Right.
He's a monster.
He is a monster.
He gets to go to the Bucs, who already have Joe McCoy.
Right. Yeah, a little surprising there, but you know
Joe McCoy's a 3-tech. Vea's a 1-tech. So now they have both good against the run. Vea's going to eat up and demand double or triple teams. And then you got McCoy, who also requires double teams because he's so quick and agile.
Right.
So, I mean, if they both live up to the hype.
And I was going to say I don't want to toot my own team's horn, but that's not true. I do. People said, look at what the Eagles did this year. They had a plethora of talent at D-line, and they just rotated guys in and out all the time. And so what do you see? You saw a number of teams loading up on guys on the defensive line, basically.
It's a copycat league,
and
right?
let's do that. That seemed to work for the Eagles. They were able to get pressure on.
When the Giants beat the Patriots both times, what was it? It was
defensive
all defensive
line.
Causing havoc in the backfield and against Brady.
All those guys who got to make announcements at, in Dallas, like Chris Canty and, oh gosh,
Yeah, it was, yeah.
David Akers, my hero, my hero.
So another big defensive tackle went next to the Redskins, Daron Payne from Alabama. Then an interesting one. The Saints trade up.
I
think
thought
it's
for
going to be
sure
Lamar
they were
Jackson,
taking Lamar Jackson here,
and they pick a developmental pass rusher in Marcus Davenport.
Yeah,
and
so developmental.
They
said he's right. So there's a couple points here for New Orleans. First of all, they took this guy who is a freakish athlete. Like they talked about, just really a lot of raw talent here. But when they said raw, they meant raw. They were talking about he doesn't have a pass rush move. He's just fast enough and strong enough to beat guys. Well, that's not going to work.
Work in the NFL.
That's like a pitcher in Major League Baseball who has a 102 mile per hour fastball, but has no movement and he has no other pitches. Well, that's great. That's great, and it's going to work a couple times, and then you're going to see guys parking it in the third deck out in left field.
Right.
So what's going to happen here? Like, don't get me wrong, it could work out really well for them. New Orleans adding that, that pressure on defense, something that's going to be huge. But I thought Lamar Jackson would have been a perfect fit there because he wouldn't have to start. Everybody knows, like, they don't even have to announce that, Drew Brees is the starter. Everybody knows Drew Brees is the starter. Lamar Jackson is clearly in the backup role, But the other key part to that was when you look at the other trades that happened in the first round, and there were a bunch, the Saints overpaid.
Yeah.
They overpaid and got a developmental project.
Yeah, and I know their entire draft was viewed by, draftniks as being poor. And fans of the team automatically were like, yeah, well, look what happened last year. And now I don't think the Saints draft was picked apart as much last year.
Yeah, you're right. You got a running back in the third round who ended up being rookie of the year, basically.
And your first round pick panned out. So you struck gold in the middle round, but your first round pick worked out. That's expected of you.
Right. So it happened last year. So you're telling me now you're going to press your luck that it happens 2 years in a row. Okay. Good.
Yeah. Hey, show it. Prove it.
Yep.
Another group that may be having to improve some things are the Raiders, who made some questionable moves.
Yeah, John Gruden.
Drafting an offensive lineman, first-round talent, but maybe a little bit early, and there was a lot of other guys on the board that many expected to go, including Tremaine Edmonds, who went to the next pick to the Bills, their second
Isn't it
first-round pick.
Tremaine Edmonds, whose brother's in the league? His
brother's drafted by the Steelers a few picks later.
Okay, I thought he has.
Does he have another one as well?
Yeah, I think there's one in the league already, and his dad.
His dad was a Pro Bowl tight end.
Yeah, so his dad played in the league. His brother was drafted as well, and I think they have an older brother that plays in the league right now. Okay. I think.
All right, I knew his dad was an All-Pro.
Yeah,
and I knew his brother got drafted, which we're just going to talk about in a few seconds. Now here's another guy that fell a little bit. Expected.
Yeah.
Fringe top 10 guy. Goes 17 to the Chargers, Derwin James from Florida State. It's a good
pick for the Chargers.
It is a very good pick from L.A., one of the L.A. teams. A bit of a reach here from the Packers, but, the Packers always have an interesting
this is one of those things where you're starting to see the guys where it's reach are where teams were really drafting based on what they feel is their needs. And a lot of people, including some GMs, former GMs who tend to be rather conservative in their personnel decisions, have talked about drafting based on your team's need and not overall talent is a good way to find yourself fired real quick. And that's one of those interesting things.
Right.
Now, here's a pick I want to hate, but I can't yet. I will once the season rolls around.
Cowboys took inside linebacker from Boise State, Leighton Vander Esch.
Right. So I believe in high school he played in that 7-man or 8-man football.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because he graduated with 11 kids.
Jeez.
Yeah, so he didn't go to the schools. A lot of schools don't have enough in those very extreme rural areas, so they play basically 7-on-7 football, style, because they don't have enough to play, and then finds himself as a walk-on at Boise State. Ends up, I think, becoming a scholarship player, but then ends up drafted in the first round. So you had a former walk-on win the Heisman Trophy and go number 1 overall, and then you had another former walk-on go to the Cowboys at 19.
Crazy. So Frank Ragnow, the Arkansas center, goes to Detroit at 20. Big reach, was expected second round, maybe even third, possibly. But because the Patriot Way has made the trek to Detroit, they're kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt. At least some people are.
So here's the thing about the Patriot Way, though. The Patriot Way would have been to trade out of this pick and get him in the second round and get a first rounder next year or something. That's the Patriot Way. The Patriot Way is not a reach in the first round. The Patriot Way is to get him in the second round, and nobody would have thought twice for you to trade out of that pick.
Yeah. A back-to-back centers pick is Billy Price from Ohio State goes to the Bengals at 21. Another big reach, but the Draft Tech analyst doesn't hate it. But seeing at minus 51, it's a guy that is expected to go in the second, maybe third round. I don't know. Yeah. I don't have much to add, but it seems a little bit head-scratching to me. But we're Bengals fans now, so it's okay. Titans take Rashaan Evans, linebacker from Alabama. New England makes their first pick, an offensive lineman from Georgia, and Isaiah Wynn. Carolina adds DJ Moore, who played in the Big 33 game. The Panthers needed some wide receiver help, and they got it in a big way.
Cam Newton was happy.
Hayden Hurst, first tight end off the board from South Carolina, goes to the Ravens.
Joe Flacco, happy for now.
Atlanta, another guy, super happy.
Great
Matt
pick.
Ryan.
Great
Calvin Ridley.
pick.
Probably the best receiver in the draft.
Yeah.
No disrespect to DJ Moore, but Calvin Ridley was my favorite receiver, and to go down there
and now
he's
that group, across from the other Atlanta
Alabama,
legend,
right,
and
Julio Jones. So that's a great pick for the Falcons. Rashad Penny, running back to Seattle. They needed it. bit of a reach, though, gotta say. Seattle made up a lot of moral goodwill later in the draft, but a little bit of a reach to take Penny.
For a team that's had issues at running back when there were some what would appear to be obvious picks at running back that were still sitting out there.
The Steelers took the other Edmonds. Now, he was a big reach, not expected to go anywhere near the first round, but both brothers' first time in NFL history. brothers selected in the first round of the NF draft the same year. Cool. Edmonds, safety for Virginia Tech, goes to the Steelers. Taven Bryan, one of the biggest value picks, goes to the Jaguars, who already had a plethora of defensive talent. Add another one, the defensive tackle from Florida.
There you go. They took what they probably had as the best player remaining, at a position where they needed, and they got value, and they just strengthened their defensive line even more, so that's solid for them.
UCF cornerback Mike Hughes goes to Minnesota at 30. Patriots are back again. They get their running back in Sony Michael from Georgia. And finally, pick 32 ends up being the Ravens, not the Eagles. They trade back into the first round and get their quarterback of the future, or so they hope, in Lamar Jackson, who some think can play quarterback in the league, others don't believe so. He'll have a chance to learn not only from Joe Flacco, but also Robert Griffin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, you're right.
Interesting. I mean, I think it's a good place for him. Not as good as New Orleans would have been,
right,
or New England. But Baltimore, because Flacco will be done in, he may want to play 5 years. He's probably done in 2 to 3. And Jackson can sit there and learn.
Wow, and Flacco's guaranteed money runs out after this year. I didn't know that.
So
that makes it interesting.
Even be Flacco's last year.
Yeah, so you know what that means. People should put money on the Ravens to beat expectations this year, right? That's how it worked last time. It worked out big for them last time.
All right, so really quickly, let's see if I can pull this up here. Here we go.
There's only like 5 of them.
Yeah, there's not a lot. All right, so the Eagles, 5 picks. Their first one was the second round. Dallas Goedert, who they actually jumped in front of the Cowboys to take.
Yeah, after the Cowboys Hall of Fame tight end throws on them in a surprise, hey, I might be retiring.
Right, Jason Witten.
The Eagles, like a couple hours later, jump ahead of them and are able to take a tight end.
And he'll be paired with Zach Ertz. Father played at Wilson.
Yeah.
They went with Avonte Maddox, quarterback from Pitt, in the 4th round. Paired that with Josh Sweat, a defensive end from Florida State. Fell because of injuries, but is a great, great addition for them. Then they went with 2 developmental offensive line picks in Matt Pryor from TCU. And then the interesting one, the one that everyone's talking about, a guy who has never played a single down of organized American football, Jordan Mailata from South Sydney Rabbitohs. Is that how you say that?
Sure.
It's an Australian rugby team. And if you find his highlight video, definitely watch it. Because
6'8", 345, and ran a 5 flat 40. Whew.
Dude means business.
Yeah, watch his highlights of his rugby. He is just straight up. It looks like you took a college football player, put him out there at a middle school, with middle school kids trying to play like flag football, and he's just running over people.
Right.
I don't know that will actually work too. That will actually work out, but we'll have to see. It's a developmental 7th round. Hey, it's worth a shot. So we'll have to see.
I'm trying to find the Penn State Twitter handle, and I don't remember what the Penn State football Twitter handle is. I thought it was that. I'll look it up. So yeah, let's pull up the local relation to the NFL draft, and that is a former. I was close. A former Wilson player. Didn't get drafted, but immediately signed as a UDFA with the Cincinnati Bengals, and that came from the man himself. Junior Joseph was star on the Wilson football team from 2010 through 2012, won a district championship with the 2012 teammates, graduated from Wilson in the summer of 2013, went on for a 5-year career with the UConn Huskies. After redshirting, he played sparingly as a redshirt freshman, actually did start a few games, and then started for the next 3 years leading the team in tackles as a redshirt sophomore and a redshirt senior this past season. And he decided to go with the Cincinnati Bengals, so best of luck to him. Hopefully he can prove himself throughout these organized team activities, mini camps, and earn himself, if not a roster spot, at least the developmental squad.
Yeah, trying to get there, get your foot in the door and try and have a shot to, prove yourself. So best of luck to Junior, and, we know he's worked hard, but hopefully he has a chance to kind of prove himself there. I'm confident if he gets a chance to prove himself, he's going to really take advantage of it there in Cincinnati. So best of luck to him.
Yeah, and the last thing that we want to talk about is Penn State. Penn State had themselves quite the good draft. They placed, I believe it was 6 players in the draft themselves, which was the most since 2010, including number 2 overall, Saquon Barkley. Then the next one to go was my guy, because not only did a Penn State player get drafted, he ended up in Miami with Mike Gesicki, round 2, pick 42.
Which I think is a great pick for Miami.
I love
again.
it. I was super stoked when it happened. Very excited.
It was funny. A couple weeks ago, I was reading Mike Mayock's like profile on him, basically, and he's like, he's a tight end. He's kind of like a one-trick pony. He only does one thing like exceedingly well. He's like, and that's go up and catch the ball be really strong going up and catching the ball. He's like, so if you were going to be good at one thing, he's like, that's the one thing. Like he's like, look, he is a great athlete and all that stuff. He's like, he's not going to be free release to run the way he did the 40, but no one, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's a really strong pick in the second round. Marcus Allen to Pittsburgh. So I believe your aunt Joyce really likes the Steelers. Mm-hmm. I believe she's a Steelers fan. Yeah. And I know for a fact that Marcus Allen was her favorite player this past year on Penn State. Yeah. So she was excited about this.
Yeah. So I also showed Troy Apke and Deshaun Hamilton. Justin just mentioned
Troy Apke did himself a lot of favors at the combine. Like, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he ran up to the 4th round. He was the 3rd Penn Stater picked in front of Deshaun Hamilton and Marcus Allen.
Yeah, Deshaun Hamilton too. What a great I shouldn't say it's a great spot for him, but that's a great pick for Denver. He's going to be really. I think he has a chance to be a really good fit there if they can find a quarterback to get him the ball. No, but they have who was the guy in Minnesota? Didn't he go to Denver?
Case Keenum.
Yeah, isn't Case Keenum there? So so hey, maybe somebody can get him the ball now.
So there's Penn State's 6 draft picks: Barkley, Gesicki, Apke, Hamilton, Allen, and Campbell. And then I thought they had put it together, but I guess not. So we'll go back down this way. Curtis Cothran, undrafted, to the Vikings. Tyler Davis to the Bills. Parker Cothran to the Steelers. Brendan Mann to the Panthers. Grant Haley joining Barkley with the Giants. And Jason Kumbinda and Saeed Blacknall both going to the Raiders. Apparently they were a pair. Wherever they were going together. And reports were at first that they both signed with Miami. And then it was revealed that it was actually the Raiders.
You would have been.
I would have been.
You would have been going nuts.
Wow, three Penn Staters in the Dolphins draft class or UDFA class. I would have been stoked, but no. But congratulations to all those guys getting a chance to fulfill their probably a childhood dream of playing professional football. In the NFL,
you got a shot,
and they got a shot, and that's all anyone can ask for. So, well, I think that about does it. A quick hitter here on the draft, but it's another year in the books.
Yeah, like you said, it's tough because we all have opinions about it now, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll start to get a gauge for where things stand throughout this NFL season, but really kind of takes a couple years to see where these guys are, and to see the influence they have, the bigger influence they have on their team. So we'll kind of have to see, but hopefully they can. At least some of them. Like I said, I hope Saquon has a great year, minus his games against the Eagles, and we'll kind of see. So,
any shout-outs or anything from you? Anything you have to say?
My mom's birthday is this week coming up, so happy birthday.
Yep, happy birthday a little early to her. We will have a show next week. We are talking basketball, so we're going to do an entire NBA episode about the playoffs. We're welcoming back our guest from exactly a year ago, Dallas Wood, who is a Utah Jazz fan who pulled up that upset over the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round. And that was an upset, right?
I think so.
Was it a 3-6 or a 4-5? I can't remember how the West
I don't remember. I think it was 4-5.
Okay, so quasi.
Right.
So I know he's super stoked that the Jazz are moving on.
Yeah, it was 4-5 because the Jazz were the 6, and they beat the 3 Trailblazers, they swept them. The Trailblazers were the 3 seed, I believe. And the Jazz swept them. Not the Jazz. Sorry, the Pelicans. I got confused. New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah, I was
the Pelicans
swept
the Trailblazers.
I know the Jazz were the underdogs,
right?
The higher number seeded team because
his boy Donovan Mitchell did really well. Yeah. He's doing really well.
So we're gonna have a great conversation with Dallas next week. Looking forward to it, especially because Justin will be on, excuse me, my side in the LeBron talk this year.
Yeah, this year things may have changed a little bit. So. Not yet. They haven't changed yet, but there's the chance that Dallas will be yelling at me too. So
episode 259 is next Sunday at 8:30. Talking NBA playoffs. Check out jmnjrradio.com for more. Follow us on Twitter. I think that's it. So,
I think that's it too.
Thanks for joining us. This wraps up the 258th episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
We hope you tune in every Sunday for our take on sports. Until next time, I'm J-Raff.
And I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.